ready?
I'm ready. No, still ready. Go, go, go!
Hey guys, so welcome to our latest edition of the Go 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 podcast. Your usual crew today, myself, Anthony. We have Mark, your co-host, and today we have a very special guest. He happens to be my brother, and he happens to be Mark's teammate for Rally Team 348, who's been competing, and we'll get to that a little bit. But Mark, my first question comes straight out the box to you. I know you're hyper. I know you want to talk about this. Let's talk some Bristol, baby.
Oh, man.
What you got?
All right. The race itself was fantastic. I thought it was good. A couple of rain delays, whatever. But the end of the race, I tell you what, the last 25 laps, I literally was sitting here on the edge of my seat in the living room, like, let's go, Reddick. Like, I'm sitting here, oh, my God, like, this is going to be it. And y'all can talk about the end of the race because I'm a little bitter about it.
No, I hear you, and we're going to get to that. But let's rewind a little bit, Mark. Should NASCAR at the Cup level be racing on dirt? I think that's the first question before we go anywhere else.
I think that, having some sort of different style of racing is good for the sport. At least like one different style per year, I think could be a good thing. I know they're talking about doing a street race. So I think having a dirt race and then seeing what else they can kind of come up with. The Coliseum was kind of different. I thought it was going to be lackluster. And then it turned out to not be that way for me, at least.
Sure.
So
John,
let's
get you involved, John, here a little bit. So, you drive rally cars. We all know a little bit something about the dirt. What do you think about NASCAR at its highest level racing on dirt?
I think it's great for the sport. I caught the last 20 laps in this race, and it was fun. Watching the last 25 laps, especially the last 5 laps. With Kyle Busch being third. He's not my favorite. I don't hate him, but he came out with the W. And it is what it is. It happens sometimes. The top 2 guys crash.
So are you saying that all we need to do in NASCAR is watch the last 5 laps?
No.
I'm just messing.
The last 5 laps are always going to be the most entertaining one. So.
No, but guys, it's interesting to see. Like, I'm all for the dirt, and I'm all for trying new, especially if it gets us out to a new audience. But Mark, I don't know. I know you follow NASCAR a lot. Did you hear the comments by Kyle Larson before the beginning of this race? I don't know if you've heard those. How he really doesn't care about the Cup cars running on dirt if they have windshields. Kyle Busch actually said that we don't belong in dirt at all. Why go back in time and go back to the time of bootleggers? So there's a lot of different opinions out there. And guess what? When we did this at Eldora, Tony Stewart's track, it was fun. It was great. It was a novelty. But now we're going to Bristol. Should we stay at Bristol and continue to do this, or should we try putting dirt at Talladega? And I know I'm being a little facetious with that, but so where does it end? Do we continue here, or Mark, let me ask you point blank, what other track do you want to see dirt on?
I don't have an answer for you. I mean,
give me a hypothetical. Make something crazy up.
All right, well, you come to Dover and do the dirt. I mean, listen,
there you go.
I don't know. I think that you've got to kind of limit that at like a half-mile track. I think that a 1 miler or 1.5 miler is just like, okay, this doesn't make sense for this kind of layout.
I agree.
The half miles are probably your best bet for this kind of racing. Maybe a Martinsville, but that doesn't make sense because there's no banking.
Yeah, there's a little bit of banking. I was going to say that Martinsville probably would not help. But maybe a Richmond. Richmond has progressive banking, so maybe that could, do a little bit. But you're right. Like, we're not going to throw dirt on Daytona and say, let's go dirt racing, It's
that would be the longest race in history. 2.5 mile dirt track.
We'll actually reenact Talladega Nights at Daytona if we go dirt racing there.
Oh my God.
So, but let's talk about the last couple of laps, Mark. And I know you're a little heated about this, but you know what? Don't hold back. We got 2 guys at the top of their game. One has won a race, which means they're already qualified into It's not called the chase anymore. I think it's called the playoffs now. I can't keep track of what they keep calling it, but they made the playoffs. Tyler Reddick, I don't know much about him. I'll be the first one to say, although he has some funny TikToks, if you guys ever check that out. Yes, I am a TikTok guy. So they're going for it. Now, Mark and John, this question is for both of you guys. Number 14, Briscoe, into the last lap, tries to do a slide job, takes himself out, takes the leader out. Was that a fair move or was that dirty?
In my opinion, accidental. Just kind of a racing deal. You know,
when you do a slide job, is that accidental?
Dude, you got to look at it. He's lost control. So, I mean, as mad as I am about it, I mean, like, you got to look at it in his perspective. He's trying to do his best to win. It sucks for Tyler Reddick to be on the backside of that, but it is what it is.
Right.
Definitely think he's on the cusp of his first win.
No, I hope so too. And that team's been doing good things this year. So no, I'm ready to see good things. John, how about you? Was the move fair or was it dirty? Last turn of the race.
I think it's fair because I would have done the same thing, trying to go for the win. I mean, it sucks they both went out, you know, but it is what it is. That's racing. So
that is racing. And Mark, I don't know if you got to see a chance right after they interviewed Kyle and whatnot. Briscoe actually came over to Reddick and shook his hand and apologized and said, "I'm sorry." So I like that. I mean, that's sportsmanship, right?
Yeah, I agree. I don't think Tyler's really kind of hard on himself for not being faster. I mean,
he blamed himself.
That's what he said.
Yeah,
that's what he said.
I mean, what are you doing? I thought he was doing fine. There are things that I think he could have done better to avoid. Like once he got hit, there were things that he could have done to not spin so far, and maybe he could have capitalized, still won the race. I'm not sure.
Well, and here's another question to you guys, and I know I'm becoming the interviewer of the night, but the fact that these guys shook hands at the end of the night, you know, we'll see boxing fights, guys hate each other, end of the night, they're shaking hands. UFC fighters, they hate each other, end of the night, they're shaking hands. These guys literally took each other out. Well, one took the other, and they both took each other out, shook hands. Is this showing some sort of maturity or some sort of different level as far as millennials coming into NASCAR? Because my brother John actually had a good point. If this was Harvick and Kyle Busch, if this was, I don't know, Montoya and who was another hot hit, Kurt Busch, would they have shook hands at the end of the night?
Well, here, look at it this way. I mean, we've had guys come into the sport who are new. Like, let's look at Chase Elliott. He's really new into the sport, and he's had a few run-ins with folks on pit lane too. So I don't think it's a millennial thing so much as like I think it's more like a mentality thing. Like, where do you sit? What are you like? What's your standard? Like, what are you looking for when you're getting on there? I think that this is more situational than anything. I think both guys were in the right mindset. Like, he's really trying for the win. He didn't really mean to screw himself up. So, I mean, this kind of situational, I think that if it was an intentional thing, it would have been a lot worse. I think that things would have been said or handled differently.
John, what do you say?
I agree. Exactly what Mark said. I agree 100%.
Okay. So we're going now to handshakes versus fights.
Handshakes versus fights. Well, again, for me, that just plays into the situation, right? So if you're taking me out for the win on purpose and putting me into the wall, you're going to watch your back either the next race or, you know, I might have to find you on pit road, you know?
Hey, and at the end of the day, if we want to see fights, we just got to tune in to watch the Xfinity series because that was great last week.
I tell you what, the Xfinity series is like a boxing match every other week, it seems like.
Yeah, it's because these kids are like 16 years old, don't even have a license, and they're out there racing for national championship wins.
They're all full up on testosterone, and then you get Bruce Buffer out there every weekend.
So, guys, we go from a couple of short tracks that we've done these last couple of weeks, and now we're going to the big one, the Talladega Superspeedway. And I say big one because that's what NASCAR fans refer to, the big crash that we don't know when it's going to happen. We just know it's going to happen. So let me ask you this, Mark. This is the first time for the NextGen cars going to Talladega. Now, they've been to Daytona. We saw how they worked out there. Are you expecting about the same type of racing at Talladega, or do you think something will change between both tracks?
No, I'm expecting pretty much the same thing that we saw at Daytona, and maybe even a little bit at New Atlanta. Remember, Atlanta kind of raced the same as Daytona did. So
Right.
I'm kind of hoping to see some of that. And I really enjoy that racing style. I mean, that's just me. A lot of people say they don't like the super speedways. I love them. So we'll see.
John, do you like Talladega?
Of course, it's my favorite track, so I'm looking forward to watching that race.
It is also my favorite track.
Oh,
there
look
you
at
go.
that. You guys can bond over Talladega.
We'll be texting.
Now, I want to go to Talladega. I've never been. I want to go to there. Apparently during Halloween, that's the time to go. So, maybe we can plan a trip to Talladega during Halloween some year.
I would love to do the Talladega race.
Great. No, I agree. Last question about NASCAR before we move to a new topic. And I'm going to answer this first because I feel no one's been asking me questions. So the question is,
Okay.
how do you feel about the NextGen car so far? I'll go first. So we're going into this new generation car. We got sequential shifters, independent suspension, new single bolt lug nuts. What do I think it's worked? I think I love the car. I think I like the car, and it's actually given us some good racing. I mean, I don't know if it was intended to be run on dirt. I don't know if it's intended to run at short tracks because we've had issues at short tracks, but anything from above a short track, intermediate to super speedway, it seems to have been working. So I'm fine with that. And I'm sure we can get it to work at the short tracks. But John, what do you think about the new car?
I haven't really been following that close, but I know there's been a lot of tire incidents, tires going down.
That's
tires
one of the
going out
biggest
of the
things.
car. So I know once they take care of that, I mean, the rest is going to be, smooth. But the good thing with the new car is every driver never drove that car before. So it's kind of like an even playing field. And at that point, you see who the better driver is. But that's what I think.
Mark, what do you say?
I 100% agree. I think coming into this new car with all these unknowns, I'm really glad that they didn't give everybody all these big longs, this huge long off season with the car where they're like, oh yeah, we're going to test the car every single week we have this. They gave limited test time, and then they got the product that they could work on all at the same time. So it was really nice, even introduction to the car for all the teams. So
I have to ask you this question, Mark, because I think I'm going to get a good reaction from you.
sure.
How do you like the next gen car versus the car of tomorrow?
Oh my God, it's not even that. Why would you even bring up the car of tomorrow?
Just because I wanted to see your reaction.
It was the worst generation of all of NASCAR, in my opinion.
Hey man, let's not forget about the Twisted Sister.
The Twisted Sister was fine. I had no issues with Twisted
The
Sister.
Twisted
cars.
Sister went sideways, crab walked.
Well, that's like the late generations of the Twisted Sister were definitely like a little more Twisted Sister than the last. But, I tell you what, if you start comparing into the cars of the 90s and then you start getting into like late 2000s when they were really all kind of, that's a little weird looking. But COT was terrible.
One of the good things that has happened, and John just alluded to it, is that everyone started with a blank canvas with this new car, and it seems that everyone's been adapting. Now, if we kind of compare that a little bit to Formula One, and I know us three have made a big effort for this year to watch a lot more Formula One, some of the drivers over there are having issues adapting to the new car. If you guys were to guess, like what's the difference? I mean, we know what the difference between a Formula One car and a NASCAR is, but what's the difference between adapting from the old Formula One car to the new Formula One car versus the old NASCAR or the Gen 5 to the next gen? It's Gen 5. Yeah, Gen 5 to the next gen. Do you think it's because it's a formula car and it lends itself more to aero, or is it because we have a closed cockpit and it kind of just allows us to get used to it more? And I know this is more of a complicated question, but just a quick say, Mark, and any reason you can think of that?
Yeah, that is. It's just they're so different as far as the series are concerned. So I don't know a whole lot about Formula One. I love to watch it, but for as far as I'm concerned with NASCAR, the changes, they've made some pretty big changes, but I feel like overall the cars, I don't even want to say that they're not similar either, too, because I mean they're having so many different things going with the cars that they were just unaware were going to happen. Whether it's the gearbox issues they're having, or tires, or this new single lug nut. They've been having a lot of guns jamming on pit road and stuff. So
Yeah.
I don't know. That's kind of a long-winded question in my
No,
opinion.
it is. And I just wanted to get a quick response. But all right, guys. Sure.
I will say before we move on, there are teams surprising me, right? So Trackhouse has been completely surprising all season.
You know why?
The car that we had last year to this, they come in brand new team. They bought out Ganassi, and then here they are with this new car, and all of a sudden they're doing phenomenal. It's like,
dude,
a light switch.
It's because Mr. Worldwide is co-owner. Like, come on.
It's insane. I don't.
I agree with you, and I think Chastain and Suarez, they've been doing great. Suarez was leading this thing at the very beginning of the race today. He was leading the other day. He's been doing good, and Chastain already has a win, I believe, right?
Yeah.
So he's already in the playoff. So all power to them. I forget the owner's name right now, but he's been doing great, and I agree. Has been a lot of surprise teams, and I think this is attributed to the new car and to the level playing field that John brought up. But all right, guys, we're gonna kind of change roles here a little bit, and Mark is usually my co-host, but right now Mark's gonna be in the hot seat along with my brother John, because now we're gonna be talking about a sport that's near and dear to our heart. As you guys may or may not know by this point, all of us here are into rally. Mark has been my co-driver for the longest time. And then in my mind, I want to feel that he's been a free agent because I haven't been racing. And so my brother kind of picked him up. I just wish I can get like $1 million transfer fee, because that's what other sports do.
Don't I get like a percentage of the fee? Is what I'm saying?
You do.
I should. I'm just saying, we're going to talk a little bit of, investments here.
Hey, investments is my name. But so in all reality, Mark and I started doing this, I want to say 10 plus years ago. And it's been one of those things where you build the confidence with a guy. He gets confidence with you, and you guys go out and do stuff. But here's the thing, even though we're racing at the highest level that rally has to offer in the US, it doesn't mean that this is our permanent job or this is what we're doing full time. So, life gets in the way. And for myself, between buying a home, going to school, doing stuff, I've kind of had to set racing to the side. But of course, my brother has kind of taken over the reins. And because we trust Mark so much, I trust Mark, and my brother's learned to trust Mark. We've been able to continue this relationship with him. And now it's been evolving into my brother. And now they have kind of an understanding on when they're racing, what's going on, what are the do's, what are the don'ts, and getting into that. So about a couple weeks ago, the Rally, I almost said Rally America, the American Rally Championship took its series to Missouri, in which John and Mark participated under John's team, John Concha Motorsports 348, with John being the driver, Mark being the co-driver, and I'm some sort of consultant liaison, whatever, just hanging around seeing what's going on. Of course, we also have Chris Bauer, who is team principal, team sponsor, and really the guy who helps us keep the nuts and bolts together on the car when John and Mark decide to break it. So with that being said, guys, let's talk a little bit about the race. You guys actually won, and we'll talk about some of the technicalities about the rule book and whatnot, but you guys won first place in class. So that's definitely a great achievement, especially racing at the national level. But let me focus on asking a couple questions to you guys. And John, I'll start with you first. You're the driver of the car. So tell me a little bit about, how did you get into motorsports? And how have you been able to kind of consistently be getting better at what you're doing?
So that's a good question. So, my cousins, my uncles, and you guys know my background's from Ecuador. My parents are from Ecuador, so on my mom's side, my uncles, my cousins, everybody's into racing, rally, track events, stuff like that. So growing up, we were always involved. We always helped a little bit here and there, even though we didn't know what we were doing. We were still at the track and at the rallies, helping out, giving a hand. So as I'm growing up, got my license, got my permit, I started doing autocross events, little SCCA, rallycross events, and then I did track events. And then, of course, when I got a little bit of money, just a little bit, I bought a car to build pretty much in race and rally. That being said, rally is not cheap, as you guys know. But we got started. We got started doing that, and then it just took off. It took off. We've been doing it since 2011, 2010 here in the U.S.
No, that's right. And John and I have been able to compete, have friendly competitions, and just be able to go out there and give it our all, even amongst the biggest of teams, teams at a low tier, middle tier, and all the way up to factory teams. And we go out there and we do our best. So Mark, I think we kind of know how you got started. But why don't you tell the listeners a little bit more, a little intro per se of how you got into rally?
All
right, we don't need to know when you were born. Don't start with 32 years ago.
You know me. I've always been a NASCAR guy, so that's kind of where that started for me. Dale Earnhardt, all that stuff. That's just been where I came from, where I started. That's how I got into motorsport. Was my dad being a GM guy and working for GM all that time. That's how I got into loving motorsport. All my birthday parties were Dale Earnhardt birthday parties. We'll just put it that way.
No, I get it. So at what point do you transition from knowing a lot about NASCAR into, what's this rally stuff that people are talking about?
Well, my 95-ish, that area, my grandmom lived down in Milford. So actually, if you look at the state of Delaware, I lived in the northern part of Delaware. Middle is closer to the bottom. I don't want to say the bottom completely. It's more like middle bottom of Delaware. So it's like an hour and a half-ish, depending on. Yeah. We're in the southern part here. So for the summers, we would just stay over there, me and my sister, with my grandmother for the longest time. So we got the Speed Vision channel. I don't know if you remember that. Those
of course
the Speed channel before. Yes. Okay. So, man, 95, they were playing the WRC in its entirety, every single stage. Man, I just fell in love with it. So, that's where my love for that
the rally bug started.
Oh my God! I tell you what, we watched it hours and hours and hours. My grandmom's sitting there watching. Why are you? Because she's a huge NASCAR fan too.
Right.
I mean, her house is covered in Dale Earnhardt stuff as far as you can see. And then of course we're getting into this.
She's
rally.
Like, who's this Colin McRae fella over here?
Like, what in the world are they doing? So, I mean, are you not watching? I mean, these guys are full sideways in the dirt. I mean, they're going as fast as they can possibly go. I fell in love with that blue and yellow livery. I'm just gonna say. So yeah, I was always a fan since then.
For sure.
Yeah, that's where the love comes from.
So good. Yeah, no, that's it's a good thing to see where rally kind of encompasses people from all types of motorsport. Everyone comes together into the love of rally. We've seen it in Rally America with people like Dave Mira coming over from a different sport and just being able to understand what rally is and why people have such a passion for it. But John, let's fast forward a little bit. We've done a couple events. We've done events where you and I have raced together. We've done events where I'm racing or you're racing. And, we've gotten the experience that we've been able to get just through our own pedigree of going out there and doing what we need to do. I mean, to be honest, if Mark, you remember some of the very first events that we went to with no crew. We went there with kind of people lending a hand. And so now to be able to say that we actually have a full crew led by Chris and Panda Motorworks, who we've collaborated with to form kind of this alliance for them to help us. We've come a long way. But John, my question to you is, put us in the mind of a driver when you're at the start line. You know, you've done your recce, you know what's going on. Everything was done correctly. You're at that start line, but it starts raining and things kind of change about what you did as far as recce. Tell me what's going through your mindset. Are you communicating with Mark about it, anything beforehand? Or are you just thinking, okay, it's raining now, it's different, but what do I do? Tell me about that.
So just for an example, you know, this was actually one of our first rallies that I recall. I might be wrong, Mark, correct if I'm wrong, that we raced in the rain, you know, so, but it's a lot different because we do recce. It's nice and dry, you know, the weather's beautiful. And next thing you know, the next day it's downpouring. So, you know, we have to do just to get through the stages. Of course, they were slippery and completely different than when it was during recce. And like, for example, little rocks that weren't there, they're there now. So you have to avoid them. And we don't have that in the notes, you know, plus we don't have that in the notes. So we have to accommodate and just get through it. So it's tough. It's not easy, but we get through it.
Mark, how about you? You guys get to the start line. It is pouring, raining. I know you guys have had issues before with like windows fogging up and things of this nature. What is going through your mind?
Well, I mean, going through the rally, we went through the entire recce, and we already knew that the next day was going to be just a terrible downpour, like all pretty much for the whole day, at least the first day anyway. So I had already kind of prepared myself mentally for having wet conditions, really looking at the road and how things were curving and making sure like we kind of knew where we thought water was going to collect. And in some of the route books, it even kind of tells you, hey, there's going to be some water here, especially in a wet condition or a slippery condition. So it helps to kind of know that moving forward, especially knowing what the weather is going to be the next day, not really knowing exactly what's going to happen on the second day, but kind of having a good guess. When I'm looking for expectation of like an event me and you did where we rolled our car, you know, like there wasn't much there that was telling us that we were gonna, you know, roll a car or have that much of a slick condition, because it wasn't raining too bad
Right.
when we had our issues. So I'm really looking for spots in the notes where that's gonna come into play. Like you can certainly rain's not going to affect your rally too much, but you can certainly lose your rally if you're a little overzealous in that. But
Right.
you definitely want to push because you want to be competitive. So you don't want to just say, oh, we're going to throw caution to the wind here, and then that's going to be the end of the event for us, and we're just going to kind of cruise through. Now we want to win. We want to do our best. So just looking for areas to push, areas to be a little bit more careful. So that's my answer. Long-winded.
Here's a no, that's good. And we want to know what you guys are thinking. And here's a two-part question. The first part for John, the second part for Mark. John, sure. Based on everything that Mark has just said, when you're out there in racing, seeing how you did recce in mostly dry conditions, how are you adapting or changing your driving style to the rain? Are you still going flat out as fast as you can? Are you slowing down a little bit? Is slow fast? What are you doing in order to adapt to those conditions?
So going flat out is always the best way to do it, because of course a rally you have to race against the clock and beat the competitors. But that being said, stage one is always, you know, especially in the rain, to feel out the car, to see how the car handles, see how the car does, if there's grip, if there's no grip. So we took it easy stage one, you know.
We didn't have a shakedown, no testing, so we had to.
Right, because they canceled that, of course, yeah. So yeah, we took it easy, but at the same time being you know, competitive, but yet conservative, if that makes sense.
Right. No, it does. So the part two of the question for you, Mark, is when it's raining and it's different conditions and it's basically unknown, because I could say to a certain extent, the notes that you guys took the day before kind of wash a little bit because you don't know what's coming out. Not entirely, but a little bit. They're going to be different. Is there any point in time where you maybe see John and he's like overexcited and you're like, hey, slow down a little bit, or you can speed up in this section, or do you just go based on the notes?
So I really just pay attention to the notes. If there's something coming up that I want him to really pay attention to, I've already got it marked in the book. It doesn't matter if it's wet or dry. It's going to be something that we're going to look for. For most of the time when we're just driving along as fast as we can go, I'm pretty much just letting him have his pace where he's comfortable. You know, if we're going to push a little bit, I'll tell him, hey, look, we've got a long straight coming up. Long straight, go, 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 you know. And that's kind of where we run. So that's really how the notes are for me. The only thing I'm really looking for is where is it sharp? Where do we got to scrub some speed? And if it's slippery, I'm going to let him know a little bit earlier. Good.
Yeah, no, it's definitely, you want to make sure safety first. And actually, speaking about safety, I kind of want to rewind a little bit also before getting into the car. If I'm not mistaken, I believe this is the first time both of you guys went out in under hot conditions, hot meaning racing conditions, where you guys use your new helmets, correct? It's the first time?
Yes, yeah. New helmets, okay. New intercom.
So both of you guys, and whoever wants to take this first, but did the fact that you guys had new helmets versus new open face helmets, well, you always had an open face helmet, but new helmets that are lighter, easier to put on, put off, did that in any way affect your racing positively or negatively throughout the event? Anyone?
Yeah, I'm gonna say for sure.
Go.
I'm gonna say for sure for me. I mean, that was incredible. I lost my voice. I don't know why. Every time we go to a rally weekend, I get some kind of like crappy thing going on, which is ridiculous. But and I'm sitting there. I'm drinking Emergency in the morning. I got freaking Mucinex going on. I don't know why I'm taking Mucinex because I'm not really mucusy. I just don't have a voice. I'm like, So
but you know what the good thing is? This time it happened towards the end of the rally. You know, not the beginning of the rally.
Yes. Oh my God.
Before sometimes with the other intercoms, we had to scream and yell and had to yell at you saying, "What did you say?" And you're like, "Turn left." This time we were just having a conversation in the car, so we could just talk normally. You know, it's a lot better.
A totally different experience to just be able to just, hey, look, we got this turn coming up, instead of going,
ladder mark.
Yes.
It's happened for both of you guys. Like, I'm sitting there screaming in the car. I'm holding the microphone boom. Like, it's.
But this also shows how technology and money kind of buys. You know how people say money buys you speed? Even though this isn't physically giving you speed, it's giving you speed in the fact that you guys can communicate faster and make those decisions quicker. I would suggest.
Yes, the confidence is there because you're not asking, what did you say every 5 seconds?
John, how about for you? This is your first time using an open face helmet while actually driving. You know, we've been used to using full face Simpson helmets. How was your experience with the open face helmet? Did you like it? Was it better? Did you feel safe because you're not having the full face and now it's just the open face?
It's hard to say if you feel safe because we haven't really had to experience it, and I hope we don't have to experience it. But that being said, I mean, with the open face, I mean, it's more, it's better because you have more air, it's fresher, you know, as opposed to having the whole thing in your head. Plus, it's lighter, which definitely helps a lot. You know, so I do like it. It was a great purchase.
No, I think that's a great upgrade just for the team. And I think we've all agreed on this. I think that the next way to look at this is also going into the newer or upgrading of the driver and co-driver racing suits because these suits are pretty, these suits are pretty bulky. They're 3-layered and yeah, they weren't of the most expensive kind when we originally bought them. But even the technology in the cloth and the material, the Nomex has improved. And John and I were looking at different manufacturers for suits, and like they're using space grade material, whatever that means. I'm no engineer, but sure. The lines look crisper. And I feel that if you can also have the mobility and the flexibility inside the car, that can go a long way. What do you guys think?
For sure.
Yeah, I can't wait. I can't wait to get a custom suit, to be honest with you.
Yeah,
that's definitely the next thing on my radar, I think.
Okay. So guys, one of the next things that I bring up is the American Rally Association, or ARA, has actually put a lot of emphasis into safety, right? And we've added a lot of new things to where, now you have a fire suppression system. Now we have Rally Safe, which we had put in a whole new way to connect it. And we were actually, while we were back at service, we were actually able to follow you guys. But as we know, we're out in the forest and sometimes the signal doesn't go through. But Mark, let me ask you, since you're the co-driver and you're at the hands or at the controls of Rally Safe and their new computer system, can you give us a little bit idea of what it is, how you work it, and did you like it?
Okay, so I'm going to answer your last question first. I love Rally Safe. I think that all of the events should have it, honestly. I wish we were using it years ago. I think it's a game changer, to be honest.
Can you tell us what it is? Some people out there may not know.
Yeah, so essentially it is a little screen computer that sits in front of the co-driver, and it's got a nice little screen on it that it shows you your trip, where what stage you're on. It calculates time for you. It's an incredible piece of machinery, but its number one feature is it's a GPS tracking system, and it also allows for you to report on stage if you've had an incident, if there is a hazard, and if there's an emergency like medical or entrapment or whatever.
Right.
And it will send a message to, if there's a car in front of you and they crash, it'll send a message to you that they are either okay, there's an injury, or there is a hazard, like something's blocking the road. And that would be your SOS signal. And vice versa. If you get into a crash, it's already rated for a certain G-force to send a signal to the next car. Hey, you might want to check on these guys. There's been an accident. Unless you hit the OK button, of course, or whatever you need, send for help. So it's an ingenious piece of equipment. I love it. I hope we don't do another rally with that one, to be honest.
Mark, the more fascinating feature that I think you didn't mention now, but I want to bring it up because I know I've been in this situation, is that the system tells you when you're approaching a car that you might be passing a stage, or there's a car approaching you about to pass you guys on stage. Can you elaborate a little bit on that?
So there is an overtake feature, and it basically allows if you are the car chasing the car in front of you, you can, and you're a lot fast. So we had an all-wheel drive car behind us wanting to get around, and we're two-wheel drive, and they're gonna be able to exit a little bit quicker than we are. They'll hit their overtake. It'll send us a message saying, hey, they want to overtake. We'll find a spot to safely move aside so they can get around and overtake us, and then it's okay. And we have to press it on there saying that we've acknowledged, yes, you can overtake, and vice versa. If we were behind somebody and we wanted to overtake, we would have to send a request basically, and it would shine. It flashes really bright on the screen.
So when I just want clarification, because actually I don't know this, but when you said you're sending a request, does that mean they can deny your request? And I'm not being funny. I'm actually being real here.
I mean, sure. I mean, they're not going to get out of your way.
I guess you can decline it.
Yeah.
Okay. I guess this is more on the sportsmanship type ordeal.
We won't be shaking hands at that point.
I would hope that they would, answer the call. I mean, I certainly would, give you a little room if you got it.
Right.
I'm not gonna put myself in danger I'm not gonna put myself in the side of a ditch to let you by here. I mean, sorry, if you gotta wait a minute, then you've got to wait. Sorry.
Right. John, how aware are you about Rally Safe during the event? Are you aware of it at all, or is that just all in the hands of the co-driver, Mark?
So it's mainly Mark, but during recce and during transit at the stages, I do keep an eye out on the speed, because we've gotten caught with speeding in the past, and we lost a rally because of that. So now we know that the speed,
John,
and Rally Safe is a great tool.
I have a question. You're racing and you're saying you're speeding. That doesn't make sense. Can't you maybe explain what that means to people who may not understand? Because I thought the objective of racing is going as fast as you can.
Well, I would assume if people are watching this podcast, they know we're talking about rally. But anyways, rally. So there's rallies made out of stages, and during each stage, you have to transit from one stage to another, which are open public roads. So your car has to be legal. You have to follow speed limits. You have to follow everything, because technically speaking, you could get pulled over. So you have to be following the law for that state. So during transit, when you go from stage to stage, you have to follow the speed limit. If you don't, you can actually get penalized. Whether it's 10 seconds, I think it's 10 seconds right now if you get caught going over. Is that right, Mark? 10 seconds added to the time?
I think it's a minute, and I could be wrong, and I know there's a fine, so you really
there is a fine now. Yes,
you don't want to get caught. Yeah, you don't really want to get caught.
Right. So back to rally safe. So because on the computer itself, it shows you your speed, and on the book that Mark has, it'll tell him what the speed limit is. So as long as you don't go past that speed limit, we're fine. We're not going to get penalized.
Okay. Yeah, makes sense. Guys, let's get to a little bit towards the end of the race. So we were on the Rally Safe app looking at times where you are versus your competitors. We're getting excited over at the service area because we're all looking at our phones. We're all trying to refresh our phones and trying to figure out where you guys are at. So we have the luxury of having that. How aware are you guys of where you're at or what your times were versus your competitors when you're finishing or before you're starting a stage? Any one of you guys can take that.
During service, I mean, I don't know about Mark, but I always try to find out during service where we're at in times because it's always good to know, to see if we can be more conservative or if we got to push more to advance even one spot, two spots, or go to the top. So yeah, after stage 3, after stage 6, well, depending on the rally, when we're in service, I try.
Right, but the service is fine. I meant like you finish stage 1. Are you aware of where you guys are at, or
it's
not
impossible
really?
Because there's no service, so it's really hard to tell.
Yeah, I mean, if you wanted to do something like that, you'd pretty much have to go to every car and be like, "Hey, what was your time?"
Yes,
and
right.
It's really you don't really have the time or luxury for that.
Okay, no, I hear you. So the way that this race went for you guys were battling real good with some of the other competitors in your class, literally trading times by the second. How fun or not fun, because maybe that can be sometimes a little bit more nerve-wracking, was it to know that you're competing with your competitors on seconds on different stages, trading like just mere seconds?
Mark, you take this one.
So, yeah, I mean, it's very exciting. I mean, I don't think I've ever been this excited as far as a rally has been concerned for just trading small. I mean, even fractions of a second. I think we ended day 1, like not even half a second off of second place. And I think first place we were down by a minute. And yeah. But I mean, just to know that we were that close. Within striking distance of being second on the podium for a national light 2-wheel drive was like, oh my gosh, we could do this, and all it's going to take is a little bit of more push. So
right.
Yeah, it was really exciting.
No, it definitely is exciting, but there's another side to rally also, and there's usually a certain amount of stages or stage miles to be competed. But your guys' race was cut down short significantly because there were events that required medical attention and so forth. How aware of you guys are about what's going on or how severe an injury may have been from another competitor? Or are you guys in the dark until someone tells you, hey, this stage is closed?
So for the most part, we're in the dark. I mean, usually when there's a long wait to start a stage, something's going on. So at that point, either Mark or myself get out of the car and go to try to find out to see what's going on. If there's a radio, somebody with a radio, most likely they know. But as far as what it is, we know it's a car that's off, but that's it. We don't know what car, what name, what happened, if they're okay, if they're not okay. So that's all the information we get.
Mark.
So we're using the Rally Safe app. Actually, like flashed at us for a couple of times for SOS events where somebody was injured, so we had to stop. And that's one of those things where it's like John says, we don't really know who they are. We kind of have an idea somewhat of what's going on or what happened, but really it's kind of at that point it's a matter of just respecting their privacy, giving them a little bit of space. Somebody's on the way with an ambulance, so just do your best to, flag attention if you need to get attention, or just stay out of the way so that they can get the help they need.
Mark, is it an advantage or disadvantage to teams when stages are being canceled for whatever the reason may be, and maybe rightfully so if there's an SOS or an emergency. But do you see it as an advantage or disadvantage for stages being canceled?
It's a disadvantage, I think, for the most part, because we could really gain. We could also really lose. A lot of time, it really is kind of an up or down thing, but it kind of sucks that we lose that competition time.
Right.
But it's really not fun to have somebody on there that's got an injury and, you know, waiting around and we just don't know what's going on with them. Are they okay? Are they gonna be okay? You
Right.
know, so that's a hard question.
Yeah, no, John, how do you feel? Obviously you would rather complete all the stages, but if there are stages canceled, is that an advantage or disadvantage for you racing?
I mean, it can go both ways. I mean, so for example, if there's a couple stages left to go and you're leading by a minute, I mean, you want it to be over then and there because at that point you won. But if
That's
you're
right.
sitting third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, whatever, you know, and you know that the other cars are ahead of you by 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds, you want to go out there and run the stages because chances are you could potentially beat them and finish first.
So you want it to be a Bubba Wallace at Talladega? Mark, I was waiting for a reaction.
That is a can of worms.
No, but you know what? But that's something similar to what happened to us because, you know, after the last service, you know, I believe there was 3 stages to go and they canceled the first one. We got to run one stage, which actually, let me take it back a little bit. Leaving the service, we knew that the car ahead of us in first place was only beating us by 1 second. Mark, do you remember that?
Yeah, I do.
1 second.
That was, and I remember you saying, you looked over at me and you said, "Do we push or do we play it safe?" And I said,
Yeah.
"Look, dude, I'm gonna say we're going for it."
Yeah, that's good.
Know, those moments there, you know, we got Tiff asking us, we got my brother asking us, we got my parents asking me what we're going to do. I'm like, I don't really know. Because if you push too hard, I mean, you can lose the whole rally, and that's it. But, you know, if you take it easy, you don't want to settle for second place knowing the other guy's ahead of you by 1 second. So it's tough, but, you know, you got to do what you got to do to win. And we went for it, so.
Yeah, I remember you said to me, I said, "I didn't come all this way for a second."
What is he, John Vin Diesel?
Well, I might have put those words in his mouth. But
No, but guys, in all seriousness, it was a great feat. You guys were able to manage something that Mark and I had, and because Mark and I had a 3rd place national, that was the highest that we've gotten, and now you and Mark have a 1st place national. But I'd like to take a second and kind of address the situation at hand, because even though the American Rally Association is the organizer of the event, and even though our team should have maybe read the rule book, myself included, a little bit closer, I do think that there is a disadvantage to what happened to our team and to other teams who fall under the same category. Now, Rally America, the American Rally Association has a 2-wheel drive limited class and a 2-wheel drive open class at the National Series. Each of those individual classes have a championship that is awarded at the end of the year. You get a trophy, you get a certificate, whatever else you get, because you don't get money, but it's the pleasure of participating. However, for whatever reason, there was in the rule book for this year that even though these are 2 separate classes running for a national title, that you do not get awarded independent podiums for finishing an event. Now, this is not bashing the American Rally Association, but if you're going to have a championship for both of these classes at the end of the year, wouldn't it make sense to have a podium, even if you get, I don't want to call it a participation certificate, but even if you get a little medal that says, "Hey, I got 1st place," I think that would show these guys who put in the hard work and effort of going out there and dealing with the elements, the rain, the cold, the dark, the mud, everything, and just showing some sort of recognition. Because the fact of the matter is that we go out there and there's only one side awarded. Why is that? and I don't want you guys to comment on this because you guys are active participants, but I'm not. And so I can kind of say a little bit more about this. But I do think, and it's my humble opinion as someone who's raced in rally in the US, that if we're going to award a championship at the end of the year for open two-wheel drive and limited two-wheel drive, why not have a podium for these classes? That's all I got to say.
Lawyer, I'm gonna say something. I know you said you weren't gonna bring this up for a discussion here, but let me
It's
just
America.
put this out there. Yeah, I got some
America.
free speech coming for you. Are you ready?
Go for it, Mark.
All right. So you have a podium for open all-wheel drive and limited all-wheel drive.
That's
but
right.
We're not gonna give the limited two-wheel drive a podium. To me, that makes no sense. It's like, okay, we're gonna bundle one class together, the other two will separate, and then
It makes no sense.
It makes no sense. I don't see why they would do that. I think it would make sense if
there was only one championship for two-wheel drive.
If you had one vehicle for limited two-wheel drive, that just showed up, then you're like, okay, well, there's not enough there for a podium. But you come in there. I think we had between 6 and 8 guys in our class that we had to race.
Nine cars.
Nine cars. We had 9 cars in our class. We worked our butts off to get there, right? And I mean, quite frankly, our butts off the entire race. We do a really good job. We're all hyped up. It's really exciting. I mean, and it was a very exciting race, and right down to the wire. Every stage was like a totally different. We're up, we're down, we're up, we're down. It was amazing. And then we get to the podium, and they're like, "Oh yeah, we don't do that here, guys." I mean, what?
Now, Mark, let me add to what you just said. Not to cut you off, but let me cut you off anyway.
That's fine.
So I agree with everything you just said, but let me add a couple more things. Right? Okay. We are not running a M Sport car, right?
Correct.
We are not running sequential gearboxes. We're not running suspension pieces that cost more than our car do. We're just going out there with what is basically a stock Ford Fiesta ST. Call it luck, call it attrition, call it us actually being competitive on stages. The fact that we got first place and don't get recognition absolutely sucks. And let me tell you, furthermore, you have sponsors out there that are actually giving you contingency prizes based on being first, second, or third place. Guess what? My hats go off to Hoosier Tire. We love our Hoosier tires, right? We went out there, we competed. Guess what? I gave the guy a call. He said, "Oh, great. Just show us something that says that you got first place." Not me, my brother, the team. We sent them the paperwork. We sent them everything. Guess what? They gave us 4 free tires. Hey, in a sport that doesn't pay a dime, and we're not asking that we want to get paid, but in a sport that doesn't pay a dime, to find that the person who's given us the contingency is actually rewarding us. Because for rally tires, guess what? It might not be $1 million, but for a team like us who is self-funded for most of the part, we're doing our own thing to go from Philadelphia to Missouri, to go from Delaware to Missouri. Mark drove the entire way. He drove the entire way in his wife's car with her, his kid. They took time out of their busy schedules for just a little piece of recognition, and that's all we had. But guess what? Hoosier gave us a recognition that maybe the American Rally Association didn't. And maybe they have a different view on this. Maybe there's some sort of financial reason for this, but we're not asking for much. Hey, if the best we can get is a picture on the actual podium, I'm sure we would all take it, because we're not doing this for the money.
We should have done that. Well, hey, and go back. I should have been like, okay, well, you guys don't do the podium.
Before
right, and it's empty.
Before you guys came, Noah took a picture on the podium. I put him on the first place and took a picture of him. Oh, so man, Noah has a picture on the podium.
That'll be a profile picture.
But anyway, let me clarify, and this is my disclaimer. We are by no means disparaging or saying anything negative about ARA. We like the series. We will continue to race in it. We like the way that it's been organized. We like the new safety measures that have been added. We are just simply saying that for us, that we're competing out there in basically a stock car and doing the best we can with the few funds that we have out of our own pocket. We just want a little bit of recognition. That's it.
Yeah, we really, so we're out there not only just for ourselves to compete, but we have people who invest in us, right, or partner up with us, and you really want to have something for them to show for the investment or return of investment. We appreciate what they're doing, and it would just be nice to be like, hey, we got our guys are standing on a podium. Check this out.
Yeah. But all right, let's get past this. And I really have two more final questions for you guys. And these will be a little bit more fun questions, and we can end this podcast for the day. Number one question. Travis Pastrana was leading this race. And no. Sorry, I'm thinking Travis. Ken Block was leading this race. And a Hyundai, which no one thought in a million years that we'd see Ken drive that, but that's cool. They're
awesome.
Actually really good cars. He had a great car. And he loses this event because he hit a deer. My question to you guys is, did you guys see any deer out there?
I saw a lot of dogs out there, really, in the stages and during transit.
There were a lot of dogs, like uncharacteristically a lot of dogs. I
think
we were doing
or deer?
Dogs. When we were doing the recce, there were dogs we were passing residential homes, and there were dogs just running into the middle of the road. Like, dude, we should put these dogs in the house for the race. Fido was going to be lost.
Okay. John did tell me, he's like, oh, I bet you that Ken hit a dog. And then we truly find out that it was a deer. And it's interesting to see that.
And dog.
Yeah, the most I ever had was I raced actually at 100 Acre Wood, and I had a deer race me, but never cross it. But that was interesting. But here's my last question.
It ran alongside of us for almost 100 yards.
Yeah, that was interesting. But so here's my last question, and I'll end it with something nice and talking about family and stuff. Rally is a very family-oriented sport. We can see it with us, brothers racing. We could see it with Mark, your wife's at every event that she can attend to. And now that your son's getting older, he's coming out to every event that he can. But now we've seen at the higher level of the sport, Ken Block has his daughter racing in her own car, his wife racing in her own car, and he's racing, for podium wins. My question to you guys is how do you see that? Would you like family to be racing? Mark, let me ask you a more direct question. Assuming that funds weren't the issue, and Tiffany tells you one day, guess what? I'm going racing with Jane Doe, whatever co-driver. How would you feel about it? Because we know she supports you, but how would you feel about that?
I think it would be fine. And not to get a little crazy here, give out too much information here. We're actually looking for Noah, my middle child, my son. He's actually looking to get him into a chassis to start racing in a go-kart series down here in Delaware. So
breaking news.
This is all coming about this week. So we're in talks with somebody with that in the Milton Club. And actually, I think this Friday we're going to go take a little peek. They got a race going on, and we'll be speaking to some of their officials about it. So
nice. But you didn't answer the question. I'm going to hold you to this. If Tiffany told you tomorrow, hey, Mark, next event, she's racing while you're also racing with John. How would you feel? And I'm not saying that she can't do it. I'm just saying, how would you feel about a family member, a close one, racing in the same race you're racing, knowing of all the dangers that could happen? Would that make you feel good? Would your head still be in the race, or would you be a lot more worried about your family being also on stage?
I mean, I'd be a little bit worried about it. I'd be peeking in. What kind of safety stuff you guys got going on over here? What you got going on? Let me have a peek. But no, I mean, if she felt comfortable and they had safety gear that I was like, yeah, that makes sense. And things were fitted for her. Even myself, I've had a helmet that was just slightly too big and felt a little strange about it.
Right.
Then I would be like, yeah, if you're safe and you're doing everything you need to do, then by all means go do whatever you want. Have fun.
Cool. John, the same question for you. And for us, it's a little bit different because there has been events where I've raced and you haven't, and then events when you've raced and I haven't. But give us the idea when I'm racing and you're not, and you're in the service area and you know you can't do much if something were to go wrong. What are your feelings or thoughts at the time?
Well, I mean, a rally is always scary. So, it's always good to know, especially nowadays with the rallies, you can see what's going on, see where you're at, track you. But no, it's always scary if a friend or a family or anybody really doesn't make it back to service. It's a funny feeling. So it's always scary. But yeah.
Yeah, no, I'd say the same thing for myself. When you guys are out there racing, I know John's in good hands, and I know that both of you guys kind of collaborate the same, but it doesn't, take away the suspense, if you would, on our side. Tiffany and I were kind of together most of the time during this rally. And it was always one of those kind of like unspoken things where we're looking at each other like, all right, who were they behind? Who were they in front of? Did they come into service yet? Like, where are they? Just because it gives you a little bit of that anxiety to kind of see where everyone is. So the only reason I brought that up is I found it interesting that he has both his wife and his daughter racing in different cars. And him himself said that, while he was racing, going for the win, his mind was always like, all right, stage is over. Let me go see where they're at, make sure that they're not in any trouble or anything else. But with that being said, guys, thank you for having this conversation with us. I think it's a good conversation to be had. I know that we're scheduled to race at the Southern Ohio Rally with both of you guys at the command of the wheel on the 348 car. And Mark, any predictions for Southern Ohio Rally? Have you raced there before?
Yeah, we
we raced there before.
Yeah, right after my wedding, actually, like I got a call, like what was it, the day before the wedding? Like, hey, after this is done and you guys are done your honeymoon, how would you like to go race? Like, what? Okay. Yeah, I was not expecting that short of a turnaround, but we went 1 week turnaround to go racing. So yeah, that was a good time. But we did roll out of that, I believe.
So out of the good competition that you guys had in the win, how are your feelings going into that next event, Mark?
Good. You kind of set yourself up now that we've done well for one. You really want to see yourself do well for another. I mean, to stay on this path, it's kind of I want to say it's added pressure. You're going to kind of put that pressure on yourself to perform. So a little bit nervous about it, but I think we're gonna be okay. I think Ohio is another rally that's pretty fast. So yeah, we'll see.
John, same question with you, and we'll end it with that. What are your thoughts going into Southern Ohio after the success that you just had at 100 Acre Wood?
So I'm actually really looking forward to it because I was looking at times Mark, we did that in 2017, by the way. So 5 years ago? Yes, 5 years ago, I think it is.
Yeah.
So I was looking at times, and back then I think it was a G5 class with Rally America. And looking at the times, and we were doing really well until we had a little mishap. But so I'm looking forward to it. It's gonna be a blast, I think. And right now, I don't know, well, you know this already, but technically speaking, we're second in the championship for the limited two-wheel drive. So we have to go battle. And see how it goes.
A lot of pressure.
All right, guys. So we've said everything that I wanted to say and ask about the rally, but I'm going to leave the floor open to you guys. Any final words that you guys want to say?
Yeah, you know what? The final thing I want to say is we got the victory at Ohio, at Missouri, but it's not just me and Mark. Of course I'm driving the car, Mark's reading the notes, but it's more than that. We have a whole team behind us, and without them, we couldn't be even racing because they transferred the car, they fixed the car, whatever we break, they fix right away. And those guys are a pen. That Chris, which is the head of the group, Colton was there, and Zach was there. Those guys are the best. Like I said, without them, we couldn't be able to win. So, I want to thank them.
Mark?
Yeah, and so we have a lot of partners with Chris as well. Hoosier Tires is actually going to help us out for this next event coming up. So I want to say thanks to them for, helping us out after the win. That's great. Silver Suspension that's a brand with Chris and Diode Dynamics. And thanks to Tiffany for coming out and doing all of our media.
Lime Tree.
Yeah, it's Lime Tree Photo. And then
Can't forget Lime Tree.
Yeah, my son Noah for coming out. He had a blast. He was giving us our sandwiches and our waters and stuff. But just thanks to all of the partners that come out there and support us. And it's crazy having when people spend money on you. You're looking at yourself like, oh my gosh, I can't believe they just did that. So I mean, it means a lot that they support our brand enough to come out there and just support.
Sounds
and not
good.
for nothing, but those diode lights, man, they're really good. They're really good. I'm gonna buy them for my personal car actually now.
Phenomenal.
Yeah.
All right. Sounds good, guys. Well, thanks again for being here, and we'll be talking next week, Mark.
All right, man. I'm ready for it.